Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are getting right into it and we are zooming in and focusing in on a great Vera question, and that is, how do you restore happiness after worry? Sort of after you've been through a lot of either relationship breakups, or you're sort of trying to depart ways from someone who has been manipulative, someone who has, you've had a very difficult family situation, a very difficult work situation, sibling situation, something that has you enmeshed, or just feeling a lot of anxiety and worry. And really, how do you move through that to get into the healing and happiness? I think this is just a great and simple viewer question, but there is a lot packed in. So, you really have to look at the predominant emotional feelings that you get in the course of the relationship. Really sort of sussing it out, looking at, the sort of tendrils that factor into the fabric of your being, and really honoring those and becoming more sensitive to what you have going on within versus what you have going on without, particularly those messages that you can't make it. You don't have what it takes. Those negative messages, if you don't pick up on them as a result, sort of, as an aftermath of being in a relationship with someone who is manipulative or narcissistic, who wants to take you down a notch, take you down on a level, and you have these sort of painful feelings cycling through, and they're too painful for you to deal with on the conscious level, then they will remain embedded in the subconscious. They will remain embedded in the subconscious, meaning you won't hear it, but you'll be feeling it. You won't know, you won't feel it on maybe a sort of an undergirding chronic basis, but you oftentimes, because it's so chronic and it's so consistent, people aren't able to sort of delve in to those deeper emotions and sort of release them, let them go. They are kind of like an emotional safety belt, always holding them back in the event of, a sort of forward moving, propelling motion, that they are sort of always held back. And to a degree in the past, sort of stuffing them down might have been the only way to go. It might have proved utilitarian. It might have proved practical. It might have been what you had to do. Maybe you were a child, a teenager, a young adult, or in your 30s or 40s, and you had to suppress your painful feelings that were sort of uprising because either you didn't have an outlet or you didn't have the emotional ability to withstand. It was so painful. You would get angry, you'd get depressed, you'd get sorrowful, woeful, and so you wouldn't want to sort of examine those feelings. That's what ends up happening, and they end up getting repressed, pushed down, and suppressed, and just sort of paved over, if you will, through the conscious mind. And so if you have an undergirding sense of, I can't make it, I don't have what it takes, I'm not talented enough, I'm not nice enough, I'm not trustworthy, I'm not, good, I'm not nice, if you have all these I'm nots, it's basically a sense of negative validation, and you're defining yourself by the negative, then you're going to have this sort of feeling and evoke it, an evoking of defeatism, of unhappiness. The frowns are going to get longer. You're going to find yourself more and more less fulfilled. And because the negative emotions that get imprinted, conditioned, and programmed are, they're basically embedded, they're reinforced, they're rehearsed, they're massaged in, and then you then, validate them for yourself. In other words, you accept subconsciously, I am untrustworthy, I am unlovable, I am damaged goods, I am, an easy target, I am a victim. If you're identifying yourself with all these negatives, then you'll get more of what you are basically harboring in your subconscious. Harboring meaning like boats in a harbor, meaning like you're keeping all these vessels that contain the message, I am not. And so if you are believing that, we're talking in the unarticulated vastness of the deep recesses sort of what I always learned, in college, it was kind of like the bowels of your being, if you will. It's kind of like in the basement of your soul. It's hard to get to. It's dark. It's craggy. There might be spiders jumping around, really crazy, cobwebs, and it ain't, nice to be in the emotional cellar. And so you want to get out of there pretty quick, but oftentimes you have to feel out that dark in order to realize that it's not scary, that it's not filled with monsters, and that you have to sort of you develop this sort of blind faith, or, being able to have faith in yourself even without seeing the positive. That's kind of like the plight of the poet. In other words, or, you have to be able to draw forth the faith without being able to see it in the beginning. So it takes, the mustard seed, it takes that little tiny bit of faith. It takes trust. It takes hope. It takes a couple things basically to get down into the depths of one's being and understand what these feelings are. And that's, of course, the goal of the channel, is to help you to understand what is holding you back, like that emotional safety belt. Oftentimes it's the negative self-talk, the I am not, I can't, I don't have the information, I don't have the resources, I don't have this, I don't have. If you really look at what's holding you back, it's oftentimes these unspoken statements. And these are, basically manifesting more of the negative in your life, or keeping you stuck, keeping you limited, keeping you restrained, keeping you restricted, keeping you small, meek, tied up. You basically are, you feel what people describe as blocked. And a lot of people don't know that they're blocked until they watch this channel and they go, okay, I think what I'm experiencing is an emotional block. I am basically hindering myself. I'm not able to move on. I'm not able to be happy. So really, to change it up, you have to realize that if you are defining yourself by the negative, then you're defining yourself with that scarcity mindset. There's not enough love in the world for me. There's not enough for me. I won't be loved. I won't be acknowledged and validated. All these negatives. And so if you have all these negatives going on, then you won't do, what the positive definition, the flip side, would be, so that you receive new information, you take new steps, you use new tools, you keep yourself on track, you keep yourself in discipline as a disciple of. So you need to be able to follow something. You need to be able to follow and have a mentor. You need to be able to have a sort of system, in a tool, in a road to get away from where you are. And, in other words, you have to have a plan. You have to know, you have to get down to that nitty gritty. You have to accept where you are, and being able to listen to that voice within that begins with the I am, and as separate and distinct from the abuse, as separate and distinct from the abuser, as separate and distinct from the negative messages, as separate and distinct from the negative feelings. So you need to exit that negativity zone and get into the B zone, get into the I am zone. And you need to just be there, even if it seems like it's not a lot of work. How could this be working? You need to become, if you're not, getting into the positive, then you need to take the next middle steps, which is getting into the neutral, just getting into the B, getting into the I am, getting into the I, and learning to sit in and looking at your physiology. Are you too restless? Are you hyperventilating all the time? Are you always in a state of stress, pushing? Or are you, anxious? You are, find that you are in hyper arousal mode all the time, that you are always on this fast track. You might be a very fast-paced person, but yet, is it, to what degree on a comparative analysis is it breaking you down? Is it too much? Are you over obligating? Are you exhausted and unhappy? If so, then this can become a result of trying to control the outcome and being defined by the negative. So if you're defining yourself by the negative and have that lack mentality, then you're never enough. You're never good enough. You're never having enough. You never eat enough. You can never drink enough. No matter, and you become just sort of immune to the good that is around you. You become numb to it. You become blind to it. And so you need to open up your senses to the positive and begin to embrace your I am, and then your astromation box. And I am, and then defined by the positive emotions, and just getting into the I am, and those are where you need to start. Even if, I've done that. Every day is a new day. Every day you're in a new crossroads. Every day you've got a new situation. Your body has changed, your attitude, all these things are changeable. Your health, the time is a ticking. So being able to identify when you have some of these negative going on, and being able to, really identify those. Even though it's so painful, what's running a lot of my negative feelings is how I feel, which is. Even though it's so painful, what's really holding me back is. Even though it's so overwhelming, what's really holding me back is. So if you want to sort of help articulate it, even though it's painful, what's holding me back is. Even though it's painful, I need to admit that. And even though it makes me sad, I need to embrace. Even though it makes me sad, I need to embrace. Even though sometimes I feel depressed, I need to understand that. Even though I'm depressed, I need to understand that. Even though it might make me melancholy, I need to accept, and I need to take responsibility for. I need to accept and take responsibility for. What is it that you've been just sort of, depressing, talking yourself out of your own happiness is oftentimes the problem. Talking yourself out of it when, opportunity is around you, but you don't want to acknowledge the opportunity because of the pain that's holding you back, the negativity, the tension, the stress, the fact that you maybe haven't thought things through or haven't had an outlet. You haven't talked to anybody about this. You haven't written in your recovery journal about it. You haven't admitted it to yourself. So there's all these things that are sort of, locked inside, that are in the subconscious. That's where these are housed. So this is where we need to heal. So you need to kind of go through some of these steps and write, get out a piece of paper and maybe rewind this video and begin to fill these in, your paper from 1 through 20. And then answer some of these questions on paper for yourself. Stop the video, rewind it, and then realize what is holding you back. Are you too tall, too fat? Your fingernails are too long. Your fingernails are too short. Your jeans are too loose. Your jeans are too tight. You're in the dark. You're in the bright. What is it in your situations? I'm putting myself in the corner. I'm putting myself out where the bus don't go. I'm isolating myself. What are some things that you are doing that are keeping the negative locked in place? Even though I don't want to admit it, what's keeping the negative locked in place is. Even though I don't want to admit it, what's keeping the negative locked in place is. In other words, what's keeping that, that dark cloud over me? You're keeping it there like one of those airplanes, with a remote control. People are flying the airplanes in the park or something. It's like flying a negative cloud over you. Come back, dark cloud. Come back and darken my day and take away my hope and take away my joy. It becomes like that. So stop doing that. Figure out a way to stop doing that to yourself so you're not constantly darkening your days. I've got news for you. You don't have decades and decades to get through this. I mean, if you want to take 3 more decades till you feel results, then you're going to take 3 more decades. Do you want it to take that long? Or do you want to get to know the tools and use these and sort of pry them out like a spatula, get them out of the subconscious and work through it, talk through it, write about it, discuss it, get it out, air out your dirty laundry, as they say. Get it out from under the rug. What is hiding behind there? And the longer you let it go, the more and more deeply, etched it becomes. And so you don't want to deny yourself. You don't want to deprive yourself. You don't want to ignore yourself of these that are harbored in the subconscious. It'll make you frown. It'll make you sit like this. It'll make you, people are just sad all the time. And your feelings are legitimate. Your feelings are real. We're not saying that. But you need to understand what's keeping those stuck in place. Once again, like the remote, calling black the dark cloud. Get yourself out into the sun. Get yourself out into the light. Turn some lights on. Light 10 candles. Do these exercises. Play soft music. Begin to find what slowly loosens up, that muck that's holding you down, and find out what it is. Are you just feel that you could, crumple up into a ball? If so, what is this about? What is getting yourself into an emotional ball about? What is it about you that's holding yourself back? You're chaining yourself. Why are you doing this? So it usually has a payoff. And a lot of the payoff is, told you I could point the finger at that person. Blame, blame, blame. So if you still have your abuser sort of on the hook, as I call it before in previous videos, like a touchstone, you're always, yep, you did me wrong. Yep, you did me wrong. Yep, you did me wrong. Then you're always keeping that negative in place. So watch yourself from doing that and take responsibility for your own feelings. Even though, I've been through horrible situations, even though I've been through horrific treatment, even though I've been gaslighted, brainwashed, taught that, I was instructed that I was unlovable. I was taught that, that I couldn't be trusted. I was taught that I couldn't handle the truth. I was taught that I couldn't deal with someone who was honest, or I was taught that I couldn't stand up for myself. Where were you taught that you couldn't deserve better than mistreatment? Or maybe you couldn't get away from it. That's the problem with Stockholm Syndrome is, and when you're a victim or, you've experienced or been on the receiving end of emotional abuse, physical abuse, domestic abuse, and if this is a family member or a spouse, and this is ongoing, folks, then you have to realize that this is a constant in your life. And, if you can't get away from the abuser, this becomes a real serious issue, because it's like they're constantly evoking that negative fear state. So you have to be able to get some distance. Do you see how that might, cause an issue? Because oftentimes people are afraid to leave the abuser. Even though it seems contradictory, they're afraid to leave the abuser. Who am I without the abuser? Who am I without being defined as a victim? Who am I, so they don't have that next step. So you need to get into the I am. You need to allow yourself to be there, to go, and even though it's guilty, even though, like I've said before, you might be upsetting or disappointing the abuser by becoming yourself. You might upset or disappoint the abuser by saying, no, thank you, I don't need this. Even though you might have had to say, yep, I need this mistreatment, I am horrible, I need to be, hurt, I need to be hit, I need to be, psychologically talked down to, I need to be criticized, I need to be bewildered. So part of you might have had to accept this in the course of the relationship, and then you've really got it down, you've got that nailed into you like a 2x4. You've basically got that negative burden, basically nailed to your back. It's tough. It is, not a painless situation. So remove those nails, sort of get them from under your skin. Yank it out, like a Band-Aid, get it off, get the nails, get the sliver. Remember as a kid, you'd be, walking along, you'd sit on a park bench, you'd get that sliver in your leg, you're a kid, you didn't know where, ow, and you got to dig and get it out, and then you feel so much better when it's out. These negative sort of I ams need to be treated the same way. Get them out, being able to look and find exactly where they are under the skin. Yep, it's right here. It's right here in my heart. It's right here in my back. It's right here in my ear. It's right here in my eye. Pull that splinter out that has gotten sort of like a needle, you know, giving you an injection. You know, give yourself an injection of the I am. Allow yourself to be. And that is going to be a next step if you're still laden with a lot of these negative feelings, and come into a state of peace and just allowing yourself to be, and practice that state. Practice it for a year first. If you are, you know, if it's that bad. And being able to, you know, using the Astromation box, using your aspiration box, and adding new things as you go along will help you on your journey to get yourself headed in the right direction and feeling good again. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day.